This is one of the biggest problems of this house. This is
precarious
old
and fun
asbestos
and awesome
insulation.
As you can see, this is
Nervous at all.
mostly from the first day.
Flooring coming up.
Nice big hole in the floor.
Beast in it.
Did you see that one beam?
Pretty much that beam's just holding up the whole entire house right now.
That is 100% an unforced error on our part. Never gonna make that mistake again.
Parking ticket already on that car. It's not a Saturday until the neighbors threaten to call L9.
Getting our butts kicked by all the details. Our timeline is totally trashed.
Lined up for today or tomorrow to come purge.
But you want to try and preserve.
Today's been the most stressful day on the project so far.
There's some people that try to
I'm not quite sure what we're gonna do yet. So
trying to do repairs.
Oh, man.
But
It's
like
like,
thinking it's easier, but then like you actually think about it, like sometimes it's just easier to like start brand new.
bro.
Because sometimes it's just like opening a can of worms.
Hey, if you're from the Philadelphia area, you know Delancey Street is one of the top streets in Philadelphia. It's known for its architecture, its history. It's got some of the oldest houses in the city. And for any construction company to do work on there, it's a pretty big deal. So our clients came to us. They bought the house, waived all their inspections. They were in love with the neighborhood, the history of the house. And we came in and put together a proposal to modernize it, bring it back to life, catch up on all the deferred maintenance. It's an old house that's been around for over 200 years. And to us, that says something. It's not that it's at the end of its life. It's more of a testament to how well the house was built. And it gives us an opportunity to come in and add to the length, add to the history, add to the story of this house. So this project started off as an interior renovation. We were largely leaving the exterior of the home alone. We weren't changing too much of the structure. We had some engineering work done. We were going to install a steel cage to support the original rear wall of the house so that we could open up the kitchen. It really just adds function to the space. Open concept didn't really come around till post-World War II. So all these older houses are kind of chopped up and sectioned. We were going to open that up a little bit. And as we kept digging, we found more and more issues. Once we started with our demolition, we realized that it was gonna be cheaper, safer, more effective for us to take the wall down from the top rather than cutting a big opening and supporting it and leaving tons and tons of brick above it to be supported by a steel structure. It's a relatively simple detail, but it takes time, it takes money, it takes engineering, it takes inspections, there's always liability. So in this instance, we were able to add a pretty clever ledger system to tie the building together while we demolished everything and then unify the system through the subfloor, through the framing, and through the exterior walls. Once we started our initial demolition, we realized that there was a bunch of stuff that we needed to remediate. One of the biggest things was asbestos. We knew there was a little bit of asbestos, we didn't know the scope of everything. So what that entailed was us encapsulating probably about 45% of the house in plastic. We had to have a third party come in and monitor air quality as our crews were working. We had abatement companies come through, and it's really difficult in these scenarios. Asbestos, there's either go or no go. It's not like middle of the road. Like you can't just say, well, we're throwing this away. Go easy on the budget. They had to scrub every pipe. They had to cut everything out so it could be recycled. There had to be documentation. There had to be air quality monitors. So that was one of the biggest change orders and changes of scope. One of the other giant issues that came about was the third floor rear wall. There was some beautiful old tin siding that we were hoping to be able to save. As we started poking around, we started noticing that the brick underneath was in pretty questionable condition. So as we started unpeeling that onion and looking through it, we noticed that there was major sagging in the bricks. There was no lintels in the openings. There was massive water damage and deterioration of the bricks. As we dug further in, we uncovered that all the roof joists from the back half of the house bared on that wall. So it's kind of a miracle that this home was still standing. I'd say that was the biggest challenge for us from a paperwork standpoint, from a cost standpoint, from a scheduling standpoint. We had to stop our project for a month and a half while we got our engineers in to assess everything, while we performed the work, while we applied for an emergency permit. And that also meant we had to deal with the neighbors on the left side and the right side.
we just got our second threatening email from the neighbor that way.
Construction's the easy part, the paperwork and the people are the difficult part. So that really came back to bite us in the end too. one of the hardest parts of this project that we're still dealing with today, as we were installing some helical masonry ties into the original brick wall, which were called out in our engineering. 1 out of 10 of them bent and poked through the neighbor's plaster. And he happened to be a retired corporate attorney, and we were his next big battle. So that's turned into a massive undertaking. What should have been a $50 repair, and I'm sorry, turned into a $15,000 insurance claim. It caused our carrier to drop us. Any one part of these historical renovations has the potential to spiral out of control. You don't necessarily know what that's gonna be. You don't get the control if that happens or not. So this happened to be that thing. It's one of those things that happen, and we had a good team to remedy it as it caused. One of my favorite things about the house is, you're greeted right when you open the door. You see this beautiful custom railing. And Mike Jackson and the team at On Motion were able to save the original oak handrail. It was steam bent, it was custom milled, it had really cool engravings in it. They were able to totally custom fabricate the metal components that go underneath. So they hot bent the scrolls to match the original oak. They were able to use acid blackened pickets. And one of the really cool details to avoid having an unsightly track on the bottom, they lasered everything up, they lined everything up perfectly, drilled out and bored out the floor and the stairs, and then they used, I think it was dental grade epoxy to set everything in place. So it's kind of one of those cool intersections of technology and history and architecture. And for me, every time we walk in, you see this beautiful wrought iron railing system that curves and follows the rest of the house. And we opened everything up. We had a really clean slate to work with. So when you walk in, you have 10-foot high ceilings, finished in place white oak throughout the whole house. It's a 3/4 inch flooring. It's a nice wide plank, and we opted for boards that go up to 96 inches. So the team at Sheridan's Hardwood did an amazing job at that. A lot went into these, and they really add to the texture and the feel and the overall aesthetics of the house. One of the hardest things for us to do was the custom built-in book nook. We had this open concept space. That's not to say we didn't create different zones in there. So the back of the house is the kitchen and dining area. The front is the living room. Within the living room, there was this natural, it was a nook carved out by the vestibule, by the chases in between the chimneys, by the alleyway, the neighbor's house. So we had these two, I'd say 16-inch deep cavities that we needed to fill. And we ended up doing that. We built a really cool custom book nook. We used stock cabinets that we really intensely modified. We had custom valances built at the top. There's drawers, there's cabinets, there's a storage bench that works in there. But what it does, it gives a really nice place to sit down and read books, to store plants, to store vinyl records, and it kind of keeps this open concept space from feeling too underutilized. There's a TV hanging on the wall, but it's not just a TV room. It's a room of learned people, we can say. Going towards the back of the house gets a little narrow in the back to allow for a side alley. We were able to use that kind of transition to create a space for a powder room. One of the things that I'm really grateful for the clients for was their awesome taste. They let us have some fun with color drenching. They let us have some fun with really dramatic wallpaper. Some of the challenges for us, we had to infill an existing door. We're actually able to do that with the brick that we took and saved and sorted from ripping down the back wall of the house. So we were able to blend that perfectly from the outside. We were able to drop the ceiling a little bit so that we could get some of the plumbing and the mechanicals up from the basement into the second floor without having to do too many visible soffits. And as you go back into the kitchen, the first thing you notice is the black and white checkered floors. Going from the bottom up, starting the crawl spaces underneath there is a 15 mil Stego crawl space encapsulation system there. The radon that is theoretically sucked from under the ground above the roof line. So we started with a radon mitigation system. We packed the joist with rock wool. We're getting about R35 in between the joists, between the kitchen and the crawl space. We have a Schluter uncoupling membrane, and then we have this beautiful 24 by 24 checkered tile. We got it from Nemo Tile. It's sourced from Italy. One of the hard things was the lead time that we had to work with on that, but it's one of those things that's not gonna go out of style. It's a black and white checkered tile. It's large format, which makes it a little bit more modern, a little bit more sleek. And it really just gave us a great base to play with for the designs of the kitchen. One of the things that's pretty fun about this house is that it's not super modern and it's not super dated. The cabinet's a really nice light minty sage green, and it's really accentuated by the unlacquered brass plumbing fixtures, the handles, the pulls, the shelf brackets. We tied that in with some black walnut shelving that we sealed with a mixture of boiled linseed oil and beeswax actually for this beautiful kind of rich sheen that you get, and it pulls the grain out a ton, and it's really pleasing to look at. There was no interior designer on this project. The clients were super involved in all the selections, all the details, and we kind of guided them into what might work, what might not work. But stylistically, there's Italian influences in this kitchen. There's some French farmhouse accents. You got that beautiful farmhouse sink overlooking a garden window that's full of plants. It's not postmodern. It doesn't look like you're walking into a hotel, but it also doesn't look dated. There's no upper cabinets. There's open shelving, which is a big risk, at least in practice. In theory, it's awesome. In practice, it really requires you to be disciplined and organized. You walk into this kitchen, it's not really like one we've ever installed before. It's got sage cabinets, it has unlacquered brass, it has black and white checkered tiles, and the wall color is, it's called mayonnaise, but it's a super warm, super light. It goes with the house. And then you look over the dining room table and there's these hand-blown pink glass pendants that go over this wood table. And all of these things kind of tie together, and it reminds me that architecture and interior design doesn't have to follow a discipline. It has to make the people that live there happy, and this makes them happy, and that's what makes me the happiest. So making our way up to the second floor, there are 2 bedrooms and 2 full baths, and it doesn't seem like a lot for the entire floor plan, but we were able to squeeze a lot into that. In the back of the house is the nursery. It's a relatively small room. At some point it'll become a guest room, it'll become an office, a bonus room. We had a lot of challenges in that room. We had to fit a mechanical system. We had a wall with 4 historical windows. We have a roof above it. So making sure we get enough insulation in there, making sure we could tuck the mechanical system in a way that would feed the entire section of the house that it was servicing, but also not be too noisy, and figuring out plans to get the condensate out of there. All those challenges that you can check out in the vlog series that we have. One of my favorite things that we did was the color drenching. We did it throughout the house, but this room is one of the best examples of that. So the ceiling is dark blue, the walls are dark blue, the trim is dark blue, and it goes really, really nicely with that white oak flooring. Moving forward in the house a little bit, we have a full bathroom. My favorite part about that bathroom is the wallpaper. It's meant for a young child right now, but it also is gonna age really nicely. It's these really fun, whimsical dog prints. And who doesn't love dogs, right? The front half of the second floor is really what's dedicated to the owner's suite, the primary suite. When you look at the wall system, this is one of my favorite things about older homes, and one of the things that is so hard but so rewarding to do. You keep that original millwork, you keep that original carpentry, you keep that beautiful curved door, you keep that that panel system that would be so easy to rip out and replace with something that you pin onto drywall, but it doesn't tell the same story. We have 2 beautiful windows and a plaster on masonry wall. We have those floors. We have a fireplace that we were able to prep for. At some point it's going to be relined, but right now it's candles and kind of a vestigial structure of the building. And my favorite part of the second floor is the primary bathroom. It's big. It was at one point a bedroom, so we were able to create and carve out, it kind of functions as a closet and a bedroom all in one. So there is an old mechanical closet that is built out with shelves and is now a clothing closet. We have the 12 by 24 slate floor tiles. We have the emerald green subway tiles. I think one of the biggest challenges of this floor was the elevation changes. The floor is about 2 feet higher in the front than it is in the back. We had to find a way to kind of mask that transition in the best way possible, and what we ended up doing was a sunken shower. We didn't want to kill too much head height, so we built up a 16-inch platform, so there's still a 1-step entry into the shower. And we have a 6-foot by 6-foot walk-in shower with dual exposed plumbing, brass rainfall heads. We have a Pella fiberglass window in there. The shower looks really nice. That unlacquered brass and green tile goes really, really nicely together. And we also did a full backsplash behind the vanity as well, so the room has a little bit more cohesion. One of the harder parts of this project was reusing the trim. Almost all the doors are original in this house, and the ones that aren't, we got matched pretty closely. But just dealing with all the old nicks and scrapes and bubbles and centuries of paint on them, we see the imperfections when we go in. The first thing I look at is, a ding on the door or a little bubble that shouldn't be there, but that's what tells the story of the house, in my opinion. It's like dust in the groove of a vinyl record. It's part of the house's story. I hope it brings as much joy to the homeowners as does anxiety to me when I look at these things. So going up to the third floor, this is where the majority of the structural work happened. The roof joists run front of the back to the back of the house, and there is a giant ridge beam in the center of it. This was bowed and deflected about 4 inches. It was cut for plumbing. It was cut almost entirely through and supported by 2x3s just over the decades and centuries that this house has been in existence. We ended up working with 3 sets of engineers to come up with a plan to shore everything up and make sure we're the last ones doing the work. In the bathroom, that was pretty simple. We dropped the ceilings down to get 7.5-foot ceilings. We were able to mask that a little bit with the type of fixtures that we use, the wallpaper, the brass fixtures, the temperature of the lights, the LED touch mirrors. Some of that stuff pulls away from the fact that it's only a 7.5-foot ceiling rather than 8.5, 9-foot, 10-foot ceilings like the rest of the house. And that's one aspect of it. You walk through the main guest bedroom and then you walk back into the hallway. You see this beautiful railing that we talked about a little earlier. And if you look up, that structural beam we masked with slabs of black walnut that's treated with that same linseed and beeswax, and it kind of ties the top floor of the house into the bottom floor of the house, and it's really not trying to hide what it is. There's a beam there. The bar area is really cool. I really like that terracotta tile that the client selected as well. You don't have the luxury of a clean slate. So in that bar area, we have the closet, a nook created from the closet. We have a nook created from the bathroom. We have to mask the plumbing that goes behind there and the ventilation that goes up to the roof. What we were able to actually do was take these old walnut cabinets that we had from another project, pretty heavily modify them, and make a functional wet bar. We have a beverage fridge, we have a sink, we have this beautiful fire clay tile that goes from the bar top all the way to the ceiling, and where it ends up meeting this black walnut wrapped beam that helps keep the house alive pretty much. It's something, and we could have dropped the ceiling down. We had a pretty easy transition point, but what it did was add some depth to the house. It gave us a nook to have a recessed light, and it reminds you that there's things keeping these houses up. It's not sterile. The more you try to homogenize design, the more and more you take away from it. And for us, these homes are about stories, and it's about the trained eye being able to go in there and think, oh, there's probably a beam that runs through there. Oh, there's probably a plumbing stack that runs through there. Or, oh, when the architect designed this house before, their limitations were 24-foot sticks of lumber, which is why there's a beam there rather than the continuous roof that goes front to back. So keeping that story alive is probably the most important thing for us.